what do you need? What do you need? Who are the connections you need to make to enable such prosperity to happen?
Yeah, as mentioned, it's really, for us, it's not only a play about developing technology and creating a platform, it's about empowering economies. So what we need to work is with local government, local agencies. We haven't even talked about the financial inclusion that comes on the back of it, because we are unlocking data on how these B2B businesses works. And a lot of governments in this country have launched like financial inclusion programs to enable retailers and to grow small businesses. But they are lacking of data. They don't know who these businesses are. And by creating this platform, we're creating a digital identity for these businesses. So what we need is to work with governments to leverage on the platform to keep developing the local economies, keep developing the local businesses, and also open trade and encourage trade between the different countries on international trades.
Thank you. Any questions for Soumaya before we let her go? You will obviously be able to, you're going to be with us today?
Absolutely.
Then thank you. Please put your hands together and thank Soumaya.
Thank you very much.
Right, we're going to go straight into the final session before the break, and then after the break you will go into the roundtables. And so, as I mentioned in the beginning, the idea about this is to take short talks that stimulate your thinking, provoke your thinking, so that in the roundtables and in the breakouts, you can start to think about some of these topics. Now, the next session is fostering international dialogue to manage risk and opportunity. The moderator is Stephen Kahn, the global executive editor of The Conversation. In case you don't know, it's an amazing publication read by 50 million people per month, 10 editions, hundreds and hundreds of universities are members. But what people might not know about Stephen is that he knows this building. He used to be at the news desk of The Guardian, so he knows this building better than all of us, which is great because it's a rabbit warren round the back there. He's going to have two speakers on his panel. Sheetal Mehta-Walsh, who's just been appointed the Chief Executive of the AI Innovation Fund at the University of Alberta, who I understand are like number 4 in AI worldwide. And Alderman Alistair King, he's the chairman of Naisbitt King Group, but he's incoming Lord Mayor of the City of London in 2024, so it'll be terrific to have him. Please welcome Stephen Kahn and his guests onto the stage.
Thanks very much, and it's great to be here. As was said in the introduction, it's a fairly familiar place, but I did manage to get lost between the entrance and the green room, despite my knowledge of the building. I'm absolutely delighted to have these fascinating guests here today for our brief fireside chat. It seems like this is a particularly good time to be thinking about the role of AI internationally, but also specifically the UK's role and how, as seems to be the aspiration, that the UK can be both a regulator and a key innovator in the international AI sector. So that's something that I hope these fantastic guests with their very particular knowledge of this area are going to be able to shed some light on and share some thoughts on. And I wonder if you could perhaps introduce yourselves before we get into those particular challenges.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sheetal Walsh. I've just flown in from Canada. I'm British and Canadian, and so happy to come home and to be part of this event today. I have recently been appointed CEO of an AI fund coming out of the University of Alberta in Canada. We are going to be creating technologies that are focused in energy, healthcare, and agriculture, specifically with an AI focus to bring them global and international. I spent my earlier part of my career working for Bill Gates. I was a deal maker for the British government's Global Entrepreneur Program, where we raised £1 billion for 900 companies. I'm also a founder, board member, and investor. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Alistair King. I am chairman of Naisbitt King Group, which is a fund management business based in the City of London. We've got offices in London, Mumbai, and in Singapore. I'm also, I think I'm here because I'm due during the course of almost exactly 1 year away today I become the Lord Mayor of London. Lord Mayor of London, for those who don't know, is an extraordinary role. It's the titular head of the, it's a global ambassador and titular head of the British Financial and Professional Services. So I would be representing around the world the 2.5 million people here in the United Kingdom that work in the financial and professional services.
Alistair, I wonder if you might just continue on that final point. Clearly, this ambassadorial role is going to be critical in how the UK casts itself within this incredibly fast-moving sector. And specifically on this apparent contradiction of how do you regulate and innovate? How do you be goalkeeper and striker at the same time?
I think the United Kingdom has done some remarkable things over the course of many, many years, over many markets, in the sense that, in the 1970s, global foreign exchange was a very sort of unregulated, it was, there was a very fragmented business. What happened, though, in global foreign exchange was that the United Kingdom, through its magic, managed to, and the City of London, managed to codify and get dealing norms together, and ended up, London became the financial centre for foreign exchange, which it remains to this day. It did the same for Eurobonds in the 1980s, it did the same for global equities in the 90s and early 2000s, and I think it has a great opportunity to do something similar for AI and related topics in financial services once again, because I think the United Kingdom generally adopts a bottom-up approach using market practitioners to provide the input, rather than trying to impose a framework and do a top-down approach. And so I think that we do have some shortcomings, though. I think we must get some better sort of positioning in relation to coming when it comes to visas, to get some extra input in from areas in the world that are excellent in pushing these things forward. But I just think that we've got a generally good framework, and I can see that dichotomy sort of working quite well together.
And Sheetal, I know that you are currently involved very much in the sort of incubation of new businesses coming out of the higher education sector. However, you do have a background in government as well. Do you see a contradiction there in how governments, particularly this government, can create a framework, can create a safe space for the development of AI, but also be encouraging of innovation at the same time?
Absolutely, Stephen. So it is quite a challenge right now in the academic institutions, deciding what is appropriate and not appropriate, using ChatGPT versus not, realizing that these tools are actually like the calculator once was. It's just going to help us learn and move quicker and at a more rapid pace than ever before. So how do we create standards and regulations that are appropriate, while not stifling innovation? We want to really make sure that innovation carries on and it is able to grow and excel, but it has to happen with two things in place. One is the government allowing a platform for this openness of innovation, but also ensuring that education is encompassing and incorporating these new tools, which are really, really crucial. One of the things we were talking about earlier is intellectual property. A lot of academic institutions want to own the IP, and so ensuring that spin-outs and new technologies, commercialization of IP, is then given to the hands of these founders and entrepreneurs who can take their businesses globally and access more smart funding. We do know nowadays every tech company that comes to us as VCs says they have an AI capability. What does that mean? So something I think we need to think about quite seriously is how are we defining that a company has AI capabilities? What does that mean? Is it 10% of their activities? Is it delivering an outcome? What benefit, what social impact will evolve? And more importantly, how are citizens and how are users of this technology going to benefit from safe regulation, from privacy, and also from transparency around what they're doing and how they're using it and how their information will be categorized and collected.
And just more broadly on the role of the higher education sector in encouraging that kind of innovation, I mean, I guess higher education possibly out with the sort of the sort of Stanfords of this world has a sort of reputation as perhaps being not dynamic in the sort of development of tech, and that the private sector is seen as the dynamo for that. I think that's to a large degree misguided, but do you think that, how do you think higher education can play a role? Because clearly it's a sector that has great governance and great structures, and perhaps it can help provide technology and AI startups with some of that framework.
Absolutely. So it took me a year and a half to launch a wholly owned subsidiary of the University of Alberta, which is for profit. And to get that done, I had to get approval from the government, from the Board of Governors. A year and a half is a long time for an entrepreneur. But for a university, for them, they just thought it was quick as a bullet. So it was quite bureaucratic. It took a long time. But I think what's wonderful about that, Stephen, is now everyone internally has been educated as to the value of this fund and the value of commercializing IP. Certainly, now that we've launched, the goal is really going to be, how do we help these technologies go international? And you talked about industry. It's going to be very important in our fund, and the fund is global, that we don't just talk about academia and we don't just talk about research and IP, but that we actually include the Ciscos and the Microsofts of the world. And so one of the thesis of our funds is how to bring on follow-on funding and partnerships globally, which will include the Microsofts and the Ciscos and the Googles. And so having a seat at the table with the academics, government, industry, and entrepreneurs is the only true fire way, I believe, that we're going to create standards by way of practice, best practices around AI and how that's delivered.
And Alistair, we're obviously just a stone's throw from Google's European headquarters. How do we ensure that the next generation of AI, sort of technology companies, of technology giants, see London as a place to access the rest of the continent, but also the world more widely?
I think we have to have some regulatory reform here in the United Kingdom. It's extraordinary that in what we say is the global financial center of the world, it can take up to 6 months to set up a bank account. I mean, these are extraordinary sort of frictions that we need to sort of to work on. I think the other element, I've touched on the visa situation to get sort of better movement of expertise around the world. We have to work on that. But I think the other element is that we have an extraordinary situation here in the United Kingdom, which something I'm absolutely working on. And that is, we have the second largest pension pot in the world. It's £4 trillion in the United Kingdom pension pot. And yet only around 7% of that is invested into what you might call risk assets. And I think that therefore, and that's because of a whole multitude of reasons, but mostly because of regulatory constraints that were brought in, particularly after the Maxwell pension sort of scandal a couple of decades ago. And perhaps there was regulatory overreach there, a whole series of unintended consequences, which has meant that British pension funds do not fund British innovation to a large extent, or to the extent that we should. And I can give you an example of that, and that is just the other side of the of King's Cross Station. We have the Crick Institute, the remarkable centre of extraordinary excellence, and incredible sort of intellectual property being generated out of that. And the people there tell me that not one of the LPs that are banging on the door to try to finance some of that expertise is British. Everything, everyone is either American, Chinese, or from Europe, Far East. Not one is British, and that's just a horrifying situation in that sort of respect. So we do have to get some really sort of active sort of reform when it comes to that. Otherwise, we will lag.
And your role in delivering that will be lobbying, right, or?
Exactly. The role of Lord Mayor doesn't have any what you might call traditional political power. The role of Lord Mayor is one to convene, to lobby, to encourage, and also we've got later on today we've got Dominic Johnson, the innovation and sort of investment minister. He's a great ally within government to try to sort of get some of the regulatory reform that we need. Sadly, he's only a junior minister, but I think using people like Dominic and others to try and cajole government, saying, look, there really needs to be a really substantial regulatory reform. The one last thing, though, etc., we can't blame all this on government. I think that the idea is that a great friend of mine, FTSE 100 chair, they have that FTSE 100 company has both UK-based directors and Asian-based directors. She said, Alistair, if I gave you a copy of the transcript of my board meeting and I redacted the names, you would be able to tell with 100% accuracy which were the UK-based directors' comments and which were the Asian-based directors' comments. UK-based directors, their comments were suffused with governance and stewardship. Asian-based directors, suffused with growth, innovation, new opportunities, eating other people's lunches, i.e. competitiveness. And there's nothing wrong with governance and stewardship, but there needs to be a balance. We need to get back at that risk-taking, because I think we've slightly lost sight of the fact that in order to get growth, we have to take risk.
But in a sense, that's a sort of massive psychological shift that you're asking for, which may take some years.
No, so yes, but I think the way I sense you should look at it is it's a big boulder up on top of the hill, and it needs somebody to push it. And I think if you can get some movement in relation to that cultural change, then I think that we can make a difference. And I believe one of the keys, and there are a number of keys, but one of the keys is speaking within the city and the financial institutions to the risk officers, to the compliance officers, and saying you are really important. You are to agree the gatekeepers. Let's if we see something that has a less well-known jurisdiction in that proposition, don't throw it in the bin straight away because it's too difficult. I think let's work out ways in which we can do these things. And that's a cultural change that the Lord Mayor has an opportunity to move.
Sheetal.
I just want to add to that in support, of course. I do feel that citizens and generally people in our world, we always look to government, and we're always happy to blame government. But in our democratic communities, we're also able to vote. So it's quite a challenge to expect government to put everything right for us, whether it's AI or ML or how we're going to move forward in this artificial intelligence world that is moving so rapidly. And I think it's very important, as to what you said, Alistair, is that it's really time, I feel, that we, and not only as citizens, but as entrepreneurs, as corporate CEOs, as investors, it is our responsibility also to take a position and to create technologies and innovations that are going to be in the interest of our people, our communities, our cultures. And as much as we like it or not, there's even this old word of globalization. It's gone crazy now because we're talking about space, right? We're talking about things that are going to move so much more exponentially, and we cannot put all of that on government. I think we have to take responsibility, each of us.
You told me a great story just now about putting on your running shoes and running around the University of Alberta campus, literally sort of looking for innovative ideas that could be turned into businesses. What is it that's exciting you at the moment? What is it that makes you sit up and think, that will be a great business?
Thank you. Well, now that I have a 50 million fund, I'm quite excited to invest that money, and especially in impact technologies. That's quite key. But I was explaining earlier to Stephen, as a venture capitalist, what do we care about? We care about really good quality deal flow. And what we find is everyone sees what's out there. So how do we find those gems that have not yet been discovered? And so a few months ago, I literally put running shoes on and went across a 50,000 person campus, knocking on doors, dungeons, scary places to find researchers and figure out what they were doing in there. And through that, I found 50 AI-enabled technologies, specifically in the healthcare space, obviously agriculture as well, food security and other areas, but technologies that would just stay there, Stephen, and may not ever be found. Why? Because researchers love researching and could continue to do so. Now that we have a fund, they obviously are excited and interested in what commercialization means. But I'm very excited about how we can find these people who otherwise may not come out of their labs and out of their research offices, to be able to extricate them and then give them the tools. It's not just money, as all of the VCs in this room know. It's not just about money. It's also about the support services, the deal making, the access to strategic networks, the opportunity to go global and to impact communities who otherwise wouldn't be able to use that technology. So that's all very exciting.
And that leap from the sort of lab-based technology to not just a business that could work within, Alberta or Canada, but something that will cross borders and become a truly international product. What is that? What are you looking for there?
Well, if you've been to Canada, it's a fabulous place, but a very small market. And having spent half of my life here and seen the go-to-market opportunities, I think it's really crucial that no company in Alberta is going to just stay there. We've got quite deep technology that is going to impact communities around the world. And so scaling them internationally is what is quite exciting and important. At the same time, we have a very unique environment and we are thought leaders in energy. It's a huge area for us. And so if you combine AI and energy and the innovations that can evolve, there are things there, for example, that we may not find in other countries. And so how we share those with the world are going to be quite important. One quick example, Google opened their very first international office, DeepMind, in Edmonton, Alberta. Unless you're a hockey player, you're probably not going to know about Edmonton, Alberta, or you're a Cowboy and go to Calgary. So it's quite exciting, the commitment, not only for Canadians to go international with this AI technology, but attracting opportunities for partnerships locally is very interesting.
Why did they do that? Did the university play a role?
Yes, because we do have, and I'm going to argue, we do have the top researchers in AI in the world at the University of Alberta, and this comes with the likes of Dr. Richard Sutton, Patrick Pilarski. So they were actually at Google in Palo Alto, and they said, look, we must open an office in Canada because of the access to these researchers who are now going to create the next generation of reinforcement learning technologies.
And Alistair, just on a similar sort of theme, are there particular technologies, particular sectors within the realm of AI that you're particularly excited about and that you think the UK can be particularly strong at furthering internationally?
Absolutely. I mean, we're particularly keen on promoting the fintech environment, which is, has a real sense of excellence just above the city in Shoreditch and Hoxton area. That's something on the city's doorstep, and we can provide a fantastic area, sort of launch pad for them, because there are some innovation-hungry banks and financial institutions that are just desperate to bring these things in to make themselves more competitive. But I think also on the other elements, we've talked about regulatory reform. There's some fantastic RegTech businesses out there. London is still the centre for the global insurance industry, or certainly one of the centres. And so we've seen InsurTech really sort of promoting itself. And I think the other elements that where we see in a more general basis is EdTech, educational technology, to feed the workforce that the city needs. I would just say, on a good note, is the fact that before the pandemic, there were about 550,000 people working in the City of London. We just got a print on Monday of the new figure for how many people working in the City of London. And that's gone up now to 615,000 people. So the reports of the city's demise are grossly exaggerated.
And do we know how regularly those people are actually in offices in the City of London?
That's right. I mean, not as often as often as they should be, but I think that it is. But I think it is getting better slowly, not fast enough. Hopefully, when I'm in office, I have a chance to change that culture again.
Very good.
I do believe we had some questions from the audience.
Yes, but actually, we wouldn't mind if you stay there because we're close on time.
Okay.
So I think if people want to ask you questions, it's probably best in the bit that's about to happen next. So firstly, put your hands together and thank this amazing panel.
Thank you.
Please stay with us. The reason we ask you to stay here is because if we go straight to coffee, everybody will leave. Gigi,
yes,
what's going to happen next?
Now that Eric mentioned coffee, coffee's waiting for you outside, but what you need to know is the breakout sessions are waiting for you after you had your coffee. We have 2 back-to-back breakout sessions, one starting at 11 and one starting at 11:40. These sessions are 35 minutes. There are 2 deep dives and 2 collaborate sessions. Deep dives, as we mentioned before, are the ones that we have experts talking about these subjects. For example, we have investing in frontier technologies, and we have one about reducing our dependency on centralized systems and how we're going to do that. In the collaborate sessions, we invite you to participate in roundtable discussions and share your opinions. Our expert moderators are going to set the scene for you and discuss what we're talking about, what we're seeing. Then we'd love for you to share your opinions on that. So we have 2 amazing Collaborate sessions, one of them about partnerships in healthcare and how do we unlock innovation in healthcare. And the second one is Work, Rest, and Play. That's about immersive technologies and how we can harness their power at 11:40. So this is going to be a very tight run to the next room, or you stay in the same room. We have, again, 2 deep dives, one on data and AI, how to develop and deploy it safely. We have another one on LLMs. We've heard about how enterprises should be thinking about effectively using their resources to integrate these. And then we have 2 Collaborate sessions, Future of Work. This is an existential question on everyone's mind. How are we going to develop the skills? And another one on benefits and burdens of AI, creativity, critical thinking, and our mental well-being. So if you're going to be in this room for the deep dive, please try to sit to the front of the room, and the other rooms are much more intimate, but we'll now let you to your coffee breaks.
And as you go to the coffee, you'll realize that it's not on this floor, it's 1 floor up. But don't use the escalator, because it takes you 2 floors up. Just head for the stairs, walk 1 floor up, grab the coffee. Also, please try to meet the startups that are exhibiting there and chat with them. Ask them what they do. Find out what they do, what that's relevant. Please be back at your sessions at 11 a.m. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely.